Welcome everyone. So in today's lesson, we will learn what is actually EBS. Okay, EBS is Elastic Block Store and is associated with your EC2 instance or the storage for any other services, mainly for EC2. So everybody tells you, or somebody might be saying, what is your EBS volume size, or what is your EBS volume configuration. So just to make you understand what is Elastic Block Store, let's do some practical hands-on things and try to understand what is it. But first of all, from exam perspective of AWS, right, it is very important to know what is your responsibility as a customer. This side is the customer, and this side is our AWS. So let's go through the theory first, because our mode of training is theory, hands-on, then question paper. Example questions which might come in the cloud practitioner exam, right? So thing is that let's first create and configure a EBS volume through EC2 instance. So let's go back, and here you see I don't have any EC2 instance running. Let's launch one EC2 instance. Then we should do it as EC2 EBS. Image I'm taking as Amazon Linux. And as before, I have showed this video how to create the EC2 instance. So I won't be going step by step here. If you want to refer to those videos, please feel free. It's in the same playlist. I will take T2 Micro. I will check the key pair as SGKP. I will select the security group as web access, and just concentrate on this part where the default is giving it as 8 GIB and the type of the root volume is not encrypted, right? So there are so many things here which we will learn in upcoming chapters, like provisioned IOOPS, SSD, IO2, IO1, GP2, because your application might have different requirements. IOOPS is input output. So you might need a large number of input output operations for your system to run smoothly without any latency. So all these things have been already given by AWS to use as per your application need, right? So let's create it as default and we will see what happens next, right? Let's create launch instance, and our instance is being launched now. So it's coming up, it's in pending state. We will wait for some time, but in the meantime, let's go to this particular section, which is Elastic Block Store, right? Here, the previous volume which I created, it's still being deleted and other things. It's in deleting in progress, so not to worry about that. But you see, like one of the other volumes came in, right? So this is the new volume created in use attached instance. So you see, just remember this particular instance ID, and it is being in the process of being attached, right? It is ending with 8A2397. Okay, let's go to our EC2 dashboard view. Instance running. Still the instance is coming up. Oh yes, it's coming up, and you see 8A2397, right? So we know like the volume which is being attached to this particular instance is the in use one, the second one, this particular one. So if I click on this, I will see like this is my root volume which is being attached, and these are the other configurations. But this is on the console which I'm showing you. Let me show you inside the EC2 instance. Okay, since our EC2 instance is already running, we can go inside that. Again, these all steps I have shown in my previous video trainings. Please feel free to watch them and go through it before you connect to this particular thing. So let's connect. So it's connecting for us, and let's see. Yes, we are in. Now we are into Linux distribution of Amazon, and how we can check the volume is there is a command known as df-k, and if you do df-kh, we will see in megabytes. Earlier we were not able to see in megabytes. Here it is showing in megabytes. Now you see which is the root volume here. The root volume is dev xvda1, right? And what we saw here in the volumes, let's go and check. Is dev xvd1. So this is our root volume. So in layman terms, or when you are trying to make a business understand like what is EBS volume, it's just the hard disk which is being attached to your server. In this case, this particular EC2 instance. So this is the hard disk which is being attached to this particular EC2 instance. Now let's discuss the roles and responsibilities of AWS versus the customers, that is us, because we are the customers. We are using Amazon Web Services, in this case EC2 instance. So what is our responsibility here? This is very, very, very important from your learning perspective as well as exams certification perspective. Okay, so let's go here and check it out. AWS responsibility is, first of all, infrastructure, right? Here, this particular infrastructure, like this EC2 instance, right? This one is running, this has these volumes and other things. This is being taken care of by AWS in their own data center. So below this particular configuration of EC2 instance, there are hypervisors, storage, compute, and all the other things are provisioned and kept up and ready by AWS. So that is not our issue, or that is not our problem to take care of. Our issue is, or our problem, or our responsibility to take care of is the data which we will write here. For example, let's create one file under temp. If I want to create a file, let's say touch ABC, right? This file has been created and it's 0 byte. Let us add something to it. ABC, consider this is my file and I will save it, right? So I have some data here now. See, earlier it was 0 bytes. Now it is around 17. So this data, right, which is stored here, this is my responsibility. So data encryption, like I don't want this data, it might be a sensitive data to be seen by other employees or maybe the other staff members. So what I'll do is we will have to encrypt that. The encryption part I'll show you in other videos, upcoming videos. So I'm just making you clear here what is our shared responsibility model for EC2 storage, right? So we understood like infrastructure is actually responsibility of AWS. This is for what? for giving us the ability to do create EC2 instance, then create the other services as we want, right? Then come to replication for data. So the data which I created here, right? I want it to be backed up and other things, right? So that is my responsibility. And for that, if I want to take care of that particular responsibility, I can do what? I can create a snapshot. Snapshot is point in time snapshot, means just now I created one text file here and I am taking a snapshot, and this particular file along with this volume information and configuration will be saved as a backup for me. So it is my as a customer's responsibility. But this data which is being stored here, and I am working as of now here, right? I'm playing with this data. I'm doing some cat, ABC, all these things. So this is the time I'm assessing this particular data. This is the responsibility of AWS to make sure that it is available for me as of now. And if I take a snapshot later on, so that I can access it later as a backup or use it for my own other use cases, that is their responsibility to keep it as a backup for me, right? So basically the replication part, the replication of the data for HA and fault tolerance. HA is high availability, FT is fault tolerance. So high availability in the case is, as I mentioned in my previous videos and video learnings, is the data should be highly available for me to access it, which is being taken care of by AWS. Then replacing of faulty hardware. This particular EC2 instance is, as I mentioned, is running on the hardware which is owned and maintained by AWS. So if there is a fault, let's say this EC2 instance cannot be accessed, it is the responsibility of the AWS team to make it up and running for me if I am using it for my own work at this particular time, right? Have you ever heard of a network outage on AWS? It happens because it's a computer system. It's a huge complex network of many compute, storage, network, database, monitoring. So yes, there are some outages happening, and there are some maintenances also happening, which is being notified by AWS time to time. But the gist of this particular thing is that the high availability is their responsibility, and replacing a faulty hardware or let's say faulty switch and other things is their responsibility. Accessibility of this particular file to me, because it's AWS responsibility, because it's created by my IAM user ID. But as we will see in our upcoming videos on dedicated instance, shared instance, then your spot instances for EC2, we'll understand how a business can utilize the benefits of using the instance which is required by them, correct? So another point which I want to stress is like one of the other EC2 instances like a spot instance and the instance which is using a volume, which when actually stopped or terminated, that particular volume data will also be lost. So all this particular thing has to be our responsibility to create a snapshot. So let's do quickly. If I want to create a snapshot, I can just go actions. I will choose that volume for which I want that particular snapshot. In this case, this one, sorry, which is in use, right? But as per the best practices, it is always first recommended to detach it and do the snapshot. Because why? Because at the time of the snapshot, some data might be written to the disk, right? So that's why. But in our case, we will do it right away like this. So we'll do create the snapshot. We'll put the description, my snapshot, then date and all these things. We can encrypt it. That is, we will see in upcoming chapters. We can put a tag also, so we can create a snapshot. So successfully created a snapshot. And if I want, I can actually move it to some other availability zone so that I have my own high availability. Let's say this particular availability zone is down and we want this particular snapshot, which is very critical for our application. Then we can access it from there. We can move this particular snapshot to the other availability zone. So I hope you got some understanding of what is EBS and other things. So basically, it's the hard disk. In fact, if I say in a very layman terms, or just to make the business understand about EBS, it is, let's say, for example, I am creating this particular lesson in my laptop. So the hard disk is my EBS here, right? And I am responsible for these data which I am showing you to be backed up and all these things, or the data which I'm creating for you, right? And I am also responsible for its security. For example, I will encrypt it so that no other people can access those data if, for example, my laptop is stolen or maybe lost, right? So that's all for this particular lecture. I hope you got some understanding on EBS, and I will see you in the next lecture. Thank you. Have a great day ahead.